I got into Parks and Recreation as a first job. I came from a family that valued work. And so when I turned 14, my dad's like, you need a job. You can come work for me in the construction business, or you can work for Bob Porter, who was the director of Lamont Park District at the time, and he's hiring. So that's where I started. I started as 14 years old. I look back at that and think, my goodness, they handed a 14-year-old kid keys to a building, an alarm code, and I would run front desk with our racquetball courts and stuff. And my parents would come pick me up at 10 o'clock because I couldn't drive. And from there, I became a lifeguard and head swim coach, and I dragged fields and I did maintenance and I taught soccer and stayed there and felt like I wanted to be in Park and Recreation. I also wanted to be a school teacher. And so I did a dual major, and my professor on the rec side, I was in commercial recreation, said, you really need to pick one. And I think you're better at Parks and Rec. You're going to get bored in a classroom. So that's what I did, and continued working for Lamont, and then graduated, and I've had a great career since there. And so Parks and Recreation has always been, I guess, in my blood. I had great teachers at Lamont between Bob Porter and Pam Smalars, who was the superintendent of rec. They always instilled in me that we're the one form of government that really serves the public and changes people's lives. And I've seen that time and time again throughout my career. You know, when I first got there at Lamont, that district was formed in 1967, the year I was born. So it was still new. I think we were focused on mission, but didn't know it at the time. And my benefit of being able to do so many things was because it was, hey, you go do that. I think we've become way more sophisticated. I think the public demands a little more sophistication. We didn't have the big water parks and the big rec centers that we do today. But I think the industry has evolved as the communities that we serve have evolved. Certainly in where I come from in Illinois and western suburbs, there was 12,000 people in my town when I grew up, and there's 40,000 people. And so it becomes more urban, and the expectations become different. Definitely legislation creates challenges, and sometimes I think those challenges make us better. And right when I became full-time staff in Illinois, we had some legislation that came through that was called our property tax limitation. And we still operate under that today. And basically what that said was park districts could raise their tax levy from year to year, and up until the last few years, CPI was 1%, 2%, 3%. And that was a big change. And I remember the industry being very nervous about how are we going to operate. And I think what we did was we stepped up to the challenge and became more business focused, different revenue streams and different ways to serve the public. But I also think we haven't lost that we are here for all the public. And I see a new change in the last couple of years with diversity, equity, inclusion, and I think that's fantastic. And we've been really looking at that, not just different cultures or different ethnicities, but we've been focusing even on areas of our programs for those that don't have financial resources. And how do we make sure we include them? And how do we change our models to make sure that barriers of transportation or time and people that are houseless within our community, that chose to live in our community, how do we reach out to them too? And so I see that change, and I smile a little bit because I feel like the industry is going back a little bit to where we were when I first started. And we've gone through that cycle. And I think it's really good. I think it's really good. When I started in the field, it was totally ad hoc and informal. I was lucky to be allowed as a teenager to go to our South Suburban Park and Rec Association for lunches and different things. And we're able to meet people through the field that way. And as I became full-time, I was involved with our state association through our section, and met a lot of people and made a lot of great contacts through that. And some of those today are some of my best friends. Our families vacation together. We've gone to our kids' weddings. It's just a fabulous thing that happens in our industry, is because you're not competing, you're supporting each other. You can become friends with the neighboring director and be able to have a relationship with them. One of my good friends that's now retired started a program with our state association called Reconnecting. And it's a formalized program that brings entry-level professionals, mid-career, and seasoned career professionals together. They meet 4 or 5 times formally, and they create triads with those different levels. And the seasoned career is the mentor of the group. And it's really to bring them together and help create the environment for those connections. And those triads are encouraged to meet outside of those groups and continue mentoring. And sometimes connections are made. And on a personal note, which is really exciting, my youngest son went to University of Alabama and then graduated from University of Illinois, Chicago in a project management, information, and supply chain role. But he had been lifeguarding for years at Lamont Park District, and he had been working there, and they went through the Reconnecting program, met a couple people, and he just got his first solid full-time job at Geneva Park District running their pools. And it was 100% from that Reconnect because he met the people, got to know other people at other districts. And when that position opened, they called and said, hey, you've been referred by people in your Reconnect program. We'd love to have you come in and interview. So I think the real key there is, while it's changed, our field just thrives on connections and networking and getting to know others. And that's really how you progress through the field, just having those connections. When I first started, I did the marketing. I did the brochure. I did finance. I did the politics, all of that. And today, we hire a lot of professionals that do our human resources and do our finance and that do our marketing. But they get to work in our environment. And I have a finance director who had been in the private sector and then worked for a village, and he's come to work for us. He goes, I would never work for anybody but a park district because I get to see what I do from a financial standpoint and how that translates into people's lives and decisions that we make and the resources we do. I get to see kids on the soccer field, and I see the direct connection of that. And goes, it's so fun. I'm still a CPA, I'm still the money guy, but I get to see the results in a really cool way. And my marketing person says the same thing, that, I could be marketing a product, I'm marketing our community, and I know I'm making connections with the programming that's going to change people's lives and that they're going to remember forever. And you don't get to do that very often. We had a family that had a lot of kids, and when I mean a lot, like 15. And they certainly had some financial issues with that. And the park district policy was no one's turned away. And I remember a couple of those kids that would come to the pool every day and swim. And I ended up teaching them swim lessons, and I did some of it on the side. I was lucky I had a pool in my backyard, so we get them out there. And years later, I bumped into one of them in the grocery store. It tears me up because I got in the grocery store and they had their kids, and he remembered me, and he's like, oh, Mr. McAdam. I'm like, Bill's fine. And he's like, do you know you changed my family's lives? We learned to swim. We felt it was a safe place. You always made sure, because I would buy him ice cream and stuff, because they had no money. They get dropped off the pool, had no money. And he goes, you gave us hope and you changed our lives. And we knew there was good there. And, you don't even know you're doing it at the time. And I probably has played out for every single person that's in this field in one way or the other. I'm just lucky I got to hear it. And him and some of his siblings are super successful and have great families. And the stuff we provide, open space, this beautiful venue when we're here, outdoors, activities, social, we provide that connection to community, and we provide all that. And we have seen participation numbers like we have never seen before. And I think it was a great reminder to all of us that we need each other, and we need to play together, and we need to socialize together, and we need private time out in the woods, and we need to have all that stuff.